What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. This is the weekend college basketball betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, late in the week, Mike Calabrese and Mike Randall. Calabrese, all you do is podcast with other guys named Mike. What's going on, gentlemen? Mike, how are you? I guess I can't say Mike, how are you? I got to direct it. Calabrese, how's it going?
Going good. You know, Michael was the number one name in the world in 1986, the year I was born. I think Muhammad took it down every other year in the 80s. So I'm glad to be surrounded with some other Mikes. I feel it's a warm blanket around me here in podcast land. I'm doing good. I'm excited to rant and rave a little bit in a college basketball landscape that just, you can't trust anybody. Nobody's good. Nobody can win on the road. So I'm feeling a little bit George Costanza-y, where it's like if every instinct I have is to take a favorite, and that's wrong, then the opposite must be right. So I think I'm gonna have to test that out over the weekend.
You mentioned I don't have to run into the problem you guys do. People call me Stuckey, but my real name is George. But you just mentioned another George Costanza. I don't run into too many Georges. The name got a little popular with who was it? Prince George. When the Prince, then you saw a little boom of Georges. But Randall, what's going on, brother?
Listen, man, last night was not for the faint of heart. I was doing pretty well. Last night was a roller coaster. Did you see the comeback that Cal had? I mean, they were getting crushed 50-31 by Colorado, came storming back. Last night was a wild ride, guys. It was 2 gin martinis for me last night. This was rough. As Mike said, can't win on the road. If you're up big early, it's like a terrible sign. We are back, folks. College basketball is back exactly the way we love it.
Yeah, the tournament is going to be it's going to be awesome because I think it's just wide open. And yeah, Colorado's they've a lot more. They've been underperforming. They've been in a free fall the last 3 games. Given their talent, I'm pretty disappointed in what Tad Boyle has done. And USC, some of these teams in the Pac-12, man, USC loses again. They lose at home to Washington State. We've seen what UCLA is doing. The Pac-12 is way down overall from top to bottom. This podcast is proudly presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $158 in bonus bets when you bet $5 for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get in before we get into the weekend. And of course, we'll get into our futures roundtable as we do every Thursday. Let's recap the week that was. We kind of talked about it's just one high level takeaway, then we'll get into some rants. I'll say something that we were right on last week, early in the week, I should say, is I just don't see it with this Marquette team, and they lose at home to Butler, and now they lose Sean Jones for the year. He was an important rotational piece for them. They really miss Prosper. I mean, look, Butler is a pretty good team trending up, but to lose that game after you lost on the road to Seton Hall, I think that's red flags. I don't see it with this Marquette team. Marquette is still in the top 20 in KenPom, and we're going to do an exercise before we do futures portfolio. I'm just going to go through the top 20, and you guys are just going to say yes or no, whether or not you can see that team winning the national title. Spoiler alert, I don't see it with Marquette. So I think that loss at home was very telling. Like this after a loss on the road last year, you would not have seen this Marquette team lose that game. Randall, I'll throw it to you. You get one high-level takeaway from this week?
Yeah, the big takeaway is, will somebody step up in the ACC? I guess it's North Carolina, guys. I have not been a fan of North Carolina. I think Hubert Davis is very shaky in big games. However, I will tell you, I think their talent and the play of R.J. Davis has just taken them to another level. He's playing like a first-team All-American. Baycott is better. Ingram gives you things. Cadeau is great going to the basket. And this is an ACC where Virginia looks very shaky. NC State they just beat. You have Duke, of course. But where is Miami? I mean, I talked about Miami on the future last week, guys. I said, when are they losing? Right? Well, they go to Wake Forest, no Poplar. Okay, so you can excuse that because they lost in overtime at Wake. Okay, fine. Then they lose at home to Louisville by 9 as 16.5-point favorites. So
Louisville was starting a walk-on.
Yeah, right. Just catastrophic loss. And Poplar is back for that game. So I guess the ACC, guys, is North Carolina and Duke. Virginia, I guess I just don't trust their offense, but ho-hum, the rest of it is just very mediocre.
Yeah, I really like this North Carolina team. Although they've cost me 3 bets in a row, I faded them. I just thought that they were overpriced.
Dang.
I will say, Pitt, 5 of 29 from 3. Clemson, 1 of 18 from 3. And then last night, NC State, 2 of 21. That's quick mac, 3 of 39, 5 of 29, 8 for 70?
Yep.
See, so no one has made a 3. And it's not like this North Carolina team is a team that just completely shuts down the 3. Teams are getting, decent looks from the perimeter, and no one can hit a shot. So I will say, that has helped their case over the last 3 games. I mean, if you go 1 of 18, 1 of 20 from 3, you're not going to win a game. But yes, the talent is there. Baycott inside, RJ Davis, even Trimble's played really well. And then Cadeau, who's really highly touted recruit. The reason I really like the upside with North Carolina is if he continues to get better at point, then they can really reach their ceiling for sure. But they've definitely benefited from some 3-point regression over the past few games. Calabrese, you have main takeaway from this week?
Well, real quick, just on Marquette, I mean, how long ago does Maui feel at this point? Like, it's not even the same team that, was nearly running the table out there. And additionally, maybe it's because I have PTSD from being here in Philly and the Ben Simmons situation. But when there's a point guard that can score, but just chooses not to score, like Kolek, it's all hands on deck right now. The offense is going through this lull. You got to show up. And for him not to show up at all in the last 2 games, I agree with you. I think this is really troubling. Their schedule may hide the fact that they're falling off a cliff, but the road trip to St. John's on the 20th, I think that's quickly becoming a must-win to stabilize their entire season. I just have 2 quick notes that I saw on Twitter that I thought were really interesting about what's happening with top teams struggling on the road this year. Evan Maya put out that it's harder this year more than ever for high majors to win on the road. Of the top 7 conferences, home teams are winning 66% of the time in league play. That's up 5% over the previous 2 years. So basically, if you're on your home floor in a power conference, you got a chance. And the second one really caught my eye. Top 15 teams on the road against unranked competition this season are now 16 and 19. That's horrific. So yeah, I think we've been dancing around this, in the first few episodes of this season covering college basketball, but it is so wide open and there's so few reliable combinations of, scorers, coaches who know what they're doing in critical situations, and teams that can string together multiple wins away from their home floor.
Yep. All right, let's get into a quick rant. It could be from this week, this season, anything. I'm going to go people. I see this people, a lot of this is new content creators, new bettors, but a lot of people that rant about CLV and, oh my God, I got such a good line and I lost. So here, this is how you should look at it. I'll take last Saturday. I had a bunch of bets where I got good lines and lost. All that happens when you get a good line. Now that's the best indicator that you're a good better over the long run. It's a long sample size. If you just take one bet and say you beat the closing line by a couple points, that's good because essentially if you were just a coin flipper, you had no edge, you would then go from say 50% probability of winning that bet to now 55, let's say, percent. So if I sat in front of you and said, here's a coin, I'm going to flip it, and you guessed heads and it was tails, hey, I was wrong. If I said there's a 55% chance that you're going to get it right, you got it wrong, you wouldn't be completely out of your mind that you lost. It's just one game. That's going to, I will tell you, 3-point regression, late game variance will trump closing line value over a small sample size anytime. So you have to get that out of your head. It's good to beat the close. Over the long run, you're going to come out ahead, but we're talking thousands of bets. over the short run, especially one bet. Just because you beat the close doesn't mean that you're going to win that bet or you should have won that bet. You just improved your probability a little bit. So get that out of your head. And then that also remove the possibility of tilting. You're going to have a lot of bets where you could beat the close. Your team doesn't make any threes. They keep fouling at the end and you get a bad run out. It happens. It also happens on the other end. You get a bad line and you win because of 3-point variance and things of that nature. So hate seeing that. Just get that out of your head. Accept that over short periods, small sample sizes. This is college basketball. Crazy shit in the final minute is going to swing one way or the other on many bets. That's just random. And then 3-point variance. With the prevalence of the 3-point shot, if your team shoots 50% and the other team shoots 2 of 20, guess what? You're probably going to lose your bet, and that's okay. On to the next one. Randall, anything you want to rant about?
Yeah, listen, Tom Izzo, pipe down here, okay? We keep saying that Izzo's going to get it right, and I like Michigan State, but that interview after the Northwestern game was awful. Maybe he's Belichick in a basketball sheep's clothing here, so maybe he should retire with all these other guys. Terrible rant. First of all, he blasts analytics, which is a terrible look. He takes a passive-aggressive shot saying, well, you can't blame the players, which reminds me of when parents used to say to me, with all due respect, which means with no respect. So that's what you're doing is you're blaming the players. So he blasts analytics. He blames the players indirectly. And then he says he can't take the football pads out because he's going to get sued. Tom, maybe we should stay away from sued with Michigan State. Maybe you should go a different direction here. Honestly, I think it's a terrible look for them. It reminds me of Clint Eastwood. Get off my lawn with that rant. Folks, the Spartans are 1-3 in the Big Ten. If Tyson Walker doesn't have at least 20, they can't beat anyone. Illinois loses Terrence Shannon, and they drill this same Northwestern team by 30 points, and then they lose at Purdue by 5. Enough complaining, Tom. We know you want to win. You have enough talent. Just get it right. Don't start complaining after a terrible loss to a Northwestern team who we should be celebrating for a big one.
Yeah, bad look. Izzo is falling off fast. He's getting old quick. And I mean, maybe he knows his team and he's pushing a button, but that was a horrendous rant. It went off the rails very quickly. Calabrese, anything from you?
So it is so frustrating to me with modern college basketball where everyone coaches as though they have pro 3-point shooters, where yes, there's 3-point variance, but what is your backup plan? Like if you have a lead and all of a sudden 4 or 5 possessions in a row, you're clanging threes, like, do you have some sets you can run? Is there, a way for you to get to the basket? Is there anybody you can play in the post to try to get some touches there? And this all got triggered by the fact I'm a St. Joe's basketball fan. It's really the only college sports team that I have an emotional connection to. And I've been trying to really hold off from going full into the season and expecting a postseason run NIT or the NCAA tournament. And they're up 20 against St. Louis. Their win expectancy was 97.6. They take 35 goddamn 3-pointers. A lot of them were bad in the half court, contested threes from the corner, just not open looks. But when you look at the rest of the box score, like you can't lose this game up 20. They finished +7 in the offensive rebounding margin. They only commit 5 turnovers for the whole game and go 23 for 28 from the line. You should win that 100 times out of 100. And Billy Lang, he's a dope. Like I don't understand what he's coaching. I understand that when it looks really good, when Reynolds is bombing in threes and shooting 7 for 13 from long range, this guy looks like the A10 sleeper coach of the year. But such a frustrating loss, and really one of those differentiating losses between, are they really a top 6 team in the A10, or is this just more St. Joe's Hawk basketball that I've unfortunately gotten used to in recent years?
Yeah, Billy Lang questions reemerge. But let's move on to, let's stop talking about the past and get to the future. So let's get to the futures roundtable. Before we do, I'm going to go through the top 20 currently ranked teams on KenPom. And I guess we'll do it this way. If you think that they can't, after I say the name, just speak up and say no. And then I might prod. Houston, Arizona, Purdue, Auburn, Connecticut, Tennessee, Duke.
Yeah, I don't think Tennessee can do it.
No, you're not a Tennessee believer. Offense?
Offense and the head coach. I mean, let's get real. Like I'm closing my eyes, and he's going to win multiple close games, and the Elite Eight, the Final Four. I don't see it.
Duke, Alabama. I'm saying no on Alabama.
Yeah, I'll
I
say
don't
no
see-
on Alabama with you. Yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
you know the reasons stuck.
It's mainly the defense for me. And they're ultra, they can't get stops, and they're super reliant on the three.
Yeah.
That's a bad formula in a one and done situation. Illinois.
Yeah.
I'll say no unless Shannon comes back, which I don't see happening. North
Agreed.
Carolina.
No way. They're not getting the title, guys.
Davis.
They can make a run. I like
Hubert?
Davis. No, it's Hubert.
No, I'm saying the other Davis. That's
Hubert. Yeah, it's Hubert, and I have not seen enough improvement from Baycott. I get it, but besides that sample size, when we saw the great run, I think he's been a little disappointing. He's hit or miss. I just don't think the consistency's there. I really don't.
Yeah, good Baycott is so good, and then he just disappears. It's very bizarre. Wisconsin, I'm going to say no.
No on Wisconsin.
BYU,
no.
No,
Absolutely not.
Not yet. No.
Creighton,
No. Zero.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Baylor, I'm saying no.
No.
It's
not
the
this
defense.
Year. Yep.
Iowa State.
We'll agree to disagree. Iowa State, I mean, if they played it, at Hilton, sure, but they got to win games.
They don't have enough. They don't have enough offense. Consistent offense. Kentucky, Michigan State, no.
No way. Get off my lawn. No way.
Marquette, I'm saying no.
No.
Kansas, I'm saying no on Kansas.
They need a shooting guard. They need a shooter. Yeah, a shooting guard. They don't have it.
And Oklahoma, I'm saying no.
No.
So that'll lead us into our futures roundtable. Last week, we decided on you brought Miami. Who did you bring, Calabrese?
I brought Baylor, which
Baylor.
Looking
Okay,
a tiny bit better.
I brought Texas A&M and lost 2 games. And they lost to the LSU at home, which is a horrific loss. I maybe they get Marble back. I don't know what's going. He's like, there's rumors that he might come back. I'm still fine with Texas A&M as long as they get into the dance, which they should. Making a run and winning, 4 games, and so I'm still fine with it. They need to start making some shots though. Like, holy moly, make a 3 one time. But let's get to what we're bringing. And then Randall brought Miami. Luckily, we didn't buy them at that time. After losing to Louisville, one of the worst losses of the year. But onward we go. I'm gonna bring a conference future.
Me too. That's funny. Me too. Go ahead.
Well, hopefully I have a backup, so I'll let you go first in case it's the same one.
I doubt it's the same one. You go for. I think I'm safe. Go ahead.
I'm going to go with Houston plus 200 to win the Big 12 regular season. Right now, Kansas is the favorite, which I disagree. I disagree with. And it's not like I know Houston just lost, but Kansas also just lost. And Houston's loss was at Iowa State in Hilton, where it was a great spot for Iowa State. They were up 14-0. Still had to barely hold on. Kansas lose. Yeah. I mean, I think mainly what this is I think that Kansas, given their, Bill Self, who I highly respect, and Kansas's track record, I think it's just their track record is influencing what this price is. Like, oh, Kansas always wins the Big 12. And this is a team that, if you go by some advanced metrics, some analytical sites, like this was a team that was, especially if you remove priors and your previous biases, this is a team that's like borderline top 25, and they've gotten away with it because they won a ton of close games, right? You barely held on to beat UConn, who was banged up in that game at home. You beat TCU by 2 at home. A bunch of very beneficial calls at the end of that game. Coles didn't even play for TCU. Then you lose at UCF. So they were winning a lot of close games, which I think, the Indiana game could have went either way at Indiana, which I think is really kind of inflating where people think of this Kansas team. I have Houston favored in every game, the remainder of the season. Kansas just doesn't have enough secondary scoring, and I think Houston actually matches up well with them. And then I look at the rest of the Big 12. I think BYU, we've seen like, hey, it was good team, but not as elite as some of the advanced metrics suggested due to their schedule. Iowa State, I just don't think they have enough offense to get there. They'll drop some games. And then like who else? Texas Tech off to a fast start. I don't ultimately trust them. Baylor, I don't trust their defense. So, I go through the rest of the Big 12, and I think Houston has the defense, the pedigree, the experience, the coaching. I think they come out on top. I think they should be the favorite. I think we're getting a good number here, plus 200 to win the regular season. Randall, feel free to share your thoughts on that one, and then what do you got for your conference future?
That's going to be a tough one to beat. You're giving me plus money on Houston on anything with the level of defense they're playing. That is a really, really good one. Well done, my friend. This is going to tie into what we just talked about with Billy Lang. Guys, this is a little off the radar, but how about UMass to win the A10 at plus 1,700? Here's my rationale.
Yes, I like their front court. The front court's good. So you're starting from a place of, strength.
Yeah, their front court is good. That was an impressive battle against Dayton. They got down big, and then they were able to eat them up a little bit up front. They did some nice things. Josh Cohen, who's come over to the team, 15 points, hit a three, almost hit a second one, which would have given them the lead. Matt Cross does a lot of really good things, and this is a team that is Frank Martin's team. The way they're playing defense, up and down the floor, top 50 turnover rate in the league, great on the interior defense. They're scoring. Just got to get better on their free throws. But my point is this. Outside of Dayton, St. Bonaventure, Richmond, VCU, all those teams have been up and down. George Mason, St. Joe's. If you look at Ken Pom, they are favored to win every single game except for two the remainder of the year. Away at St. Bonaventure, which is a big game, and away at Richmond, which they can definitely get. They got the Dayton away game out of the way. All they need, they're 2-1 here in the A10, plus 1,700. I think UMass has a path. They got the best coach. They have a solid team. They're healthy. I still think that there's going to be no Malachi Smith for Dayton issues. I think that will creep up a little bit. And I don't like how they let UMass come back in the game at Dayton here. So there's a little crazy, but plus 1,700 for them to win the A10, a down A10 that may only get one bid here. I like them. And if not for that, I think I'm going to bet them to make a run in the A10 tournament. What do you think, guys?
I think it's Kobe Elvis. I think he's okay. He got hurt for Dayton, which would be a big loss for a team that doesn't have great depth. But I think that I don't know if it's long term or not. I don't hate it. I think that the A10 is pretty wide open. You're the A10 guy, Caprice. What do you?
Oh, I loved it. Once you said the number, like when you started with UMass, I was like in my head, like 12-1, something like that. To get a number that lucrative, because I agree, the outside of Holmes at Dayton, they have the best front court pairing. And honestly, when you look at the coaching too, it's understanding how to prepare for road games. It's understanding for the grind of conference play. Like he's been through it, and I think he can also motivate this team in exactly the way that you're saying, which is this is a one-bid league. Like there's no absolute juggernaut here, and even in a loss, they proved that they can play at the highest level in the conference. So it's interesting to me that they're only going to be an underdog in 2 games the rest of the way, according to Ken Pom. I think that just validates your position. But overall, I still think they're undervalued, and you look at certain teams and certain markets, there's just like sleepy teams that the public, they don't watch them. So they end up hanging these stale numbers out there. I think 17-1 is way too generous.
Yeah, they need to find, they have no shoot. They're not an overly reliant outside shooting team.
Streaky.
And they get a lot of offensive rebounds. So like it's not a team that's going to get bit too much by 3-point variance, but if they could find just some shooting, outside shooting, it would do wonders for their offense. And yeah, you mentioned the free throw shooting as well. Cowboys, what do you got?
So Memphis is still out in the market to win the national title at 80-1. And I'm glad that we just did that exercise, the top 20 teams, because there's so many teams in the Ken Pom top 20 that I'm not interested in playing at all. So that leaves a lot of room on my dance card to start adding in some of these, longer shots. we know what we have offensively. You know, they've worked their way into the top 70 in Torvik and Ken Pom with known weapons like David Jones and Quinterly. Tomlin is really helping them on the defensive end as well. Quinterly, also what I like, and this is kind of, it just depends how you view close wins. I view it as they're getting the stress and anxiety, and it's kind of building in some muscle memory. Because if they're going to win 6 games in March, or really even to be able to hedge a bet like this, can they get to the Final Four? Can they win 4 games? They're going to have to win some close ones. And the fact of the matter is, they keep winning close games, and Quinterly is stepping up and playing that kind of alpha role down the stretch. Also, their schedule sets up, honestly, for a 4 or 5 loss season, really max at this point. When you look at the AAC, it's just not that deep. FAU is no longer, a team I'm really scared about. So where does that put them in terms of March Madness seeding? Maybe a 3, maybe a 4 seed, depending on how they do in the AAC tournament as well. So the fact is, if I can stack as many 50-1 plus teams in that 3 to 4 seed range, I think that's advantageous. So I want to go ahead and grab them. I think I only saw it at one shop at 80-1. I think this is going to be the last few days of it. I understand that UTSA game, they easily could have lost that one. I'm not saying that they're going to run roughshod through the AAC, but this number, I think, is just overly inflated still at 80-1.
All right. So let's go to the vote. I implemented a new rule here that for the whole season of voting, you can only vote for yourself 3 times. So you only can vote for your own pick 3 times. I voted for mine last week, so I have 2 left. I don't think you got. Did you guys vote for your own?
I voted for yours. You got me off.
Yeah, I know you voted for mine.
Can't remember. I think I may have voted for mine.
I'll go back. We'll check the records and keep that updated. So we're at 1 each. We have 2 remaining. But all right, we're gonna hold up 1 for Houston to win the Big 12, 2 for UMass to win the A10, 3 for Memphis to win the national title. And this is UMass regular season, right? UMass regular season.
Yes, sir.
Title, A10, Houston, Big 12 title. All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's a clean sweep. That Houston bet is mints.
I actually voted for.
Oh yeah.
For Randall.
Oh, you went too. Okay.
Sorry, I'm on my different computer.
Houston plus
yeah,
money stock. Yeah. Houston.
Yeah, we'll go with Houston. We could revisit UMass later. Memphis I can't see them winning the national title. I don't hate the number in a wide open year with a guy like Jones who can carry you, but there's a little fool's gold in Memphis right now. I mean, look, they're a little like Kansas light that they're getting away with. I mean, let's look back. They beat VCU in overtime. They beat Texas A&M by 6, Clemson by 2, Vanderbilt by 2, Tulsa by 3, SMU by 3, UTSA by 6 in overtime.
It depends how you view it, because you go the variance monster where it's like eventually they're going to drop a close game, or you say the other way where it's like they actually know what they're going to do. And I've actually been a little bit impressed with Penny, who I didn't think all that highly of in terms of an in-game coach. At least at the end of these games, he's not making the big gaffe and the mistakes in terms of managing, foul situations, up 3, who are they going to go to the ball to take the last shot. At least he's proving to me that they're competent in those spots. I'm not saying that he's some kind of coaching wizard at this point, but I kind of view it. I understand what you're saying. It cuts both ways.
Yeah, I also just don't trust Quinterly at the end of the day. I still don't trust him. Any final comments, Randall, before we move on to the weekend?
No, I get it. I'll just say this, guys. Last year, if Kendrick Davis gets that shot off and they beat Florida Atlantic, they absolutely had a path to make the run. That was the pivot game. One of those teams was going to get hot. It was a super close game. It was a great game. They get the timeout or Davis gets the shot off or whatever. They could have easily made a run. So, Mike, I do like it, though. I like the path.
Yeah, Caleb Mills, who I was never really a fan of, but he fractured his patella, which is worth noting for Memphis. But let's move on to the weekend. We'll go rapid fire around the horn. You could go Friday, Saturday, or even Sunday if you want. And I'll kick things off here. I'm going to go let's go New Mexico at home. And hoping that we can get around a pick, but the college basketball market is so much more efficient than it used to be. I mean, this line 15 years ago would open like +3, +2, but now it'll probably open like -2, -3. But I mean, look at just to show you how much more difficult the college basketball market is. Like Iowa, Nebraska tomorrow. Nebraska's coming off that huge win. Rush the court, corn store over Purdue. They go to Iowa, a team that hasn't been overwhelming. What is I don't even know what Ken Pom probably projects that at like a pick. And I'm like saying to myself, I hope the guy would get a pick, but I doubt it. And it opens 2.5, goes to 3.5 within 1 minute. But I think this is a really good spot for New Mexico off a couple back-to-back losses. San Diego State team hasn't been the same way from home. Escaped with a win at San Jose State the other night. But this New Mexico team have now had a couple games with all of their guards back to get into the flow. They got 3-point variance the other night at UNLV, but they match up really well with San Diego State because you need those guards to hit mid-range jumpers, which they can do. Last year they went to Vegas and won, and then at home they lost, I think, on a crazy like buzzer beater. I lost it pretty much spiraled them at the end of the year to keep them out of the tournament. I think they'll be pretty focused here. Would love to get around a pick -1-ish. But I have New Mexico circled as a great spot this weekend on Saturday. Randall, I'll throw it to you.
Drake has been the class of the Missouri Valley Conference for years, but what most people will not realize coming up their big win over Indiana State, let's go back to 2019. They went to Southern Illinois and they lost and they won, but only by 3 points, didn't cover. Then they go to Southern Illinois the next year. They get destroyed by 17 by Southern Illinois. Then they play Drake the next year. Both games are away because that was COVID. Then in 2022, they play Drake at home. They lose by 1. Then last year, they beat Drake at home by 4. So what you're going to have is a Drake team coming off a big win over Indiana State, and everybody says they're the class of the Missouri Valley, but they don't realize that Southern Illinois is very quietly 12-4, is 4-1 in the Missouri Valley, and Xavier Johnson is playing at an elite level, and no one can stop him. This is a Salukis team that is number 2 in the country at defending the three-pointer. They make a ton of threes, and they make their free throws, and they control the pace. I'm going to grab this right away. Ken Pom has it at Southern Illinois -2. I think people are going to jump on Drake. I like the Salukis here to continue their path of playing well against Drake. This isn't your mother's Drake team. They're not as good as they used to be. Roman Penn, all those things, went 16-0 to cover to start the year a few years ago. I'm taking Southern Illinois here with a big spot for the great Xavier Johnson.
Yeah, I was also impressed. Terrible spot for Southern Illinois before the Drake game at Valpo. Yep. I got a prayer. They were up to 20 in that game at the half. Really focused effort. I got a prayer cover with Valpo.
Yep.
Oh my God. They inbounded the ball with like 4 seconds left and just chucked up a 3 down 11. And a kid on Valpo comes flying in and dunks it off the rim as time expires to lose by 9. Absolute miracle. Like the spot. Calabrese, what do you got?
This is real quick. Did you see Xavier Johnson's glow up as a former George Mason Patriot? I mean, this guy is playing at such an absurd level. He's not just scoring. I mean, he's filling up the stat line every single night. So yeah, I think he's very quietly putting himself in the mix to be considered the best mid-major basketball player this year, which is pretty wild. I'm going to start on Friday night. I like Dayton laying 3 at Duquesne. You know, the Flyer offense, we've talked about it. Like, they're a statistical darling. Ken Pom 11th, Torvik 7th, 18th in rim and 3 rate. I like what they showed me going on the road at Dayton.
Wait, they're catching too, by the way.
Oh, it's open already. Well, fantastic.
Yep.
I do think, some of their injury issues potentially in the backcourt, I think is going to influence that number. But the reason why I circle this one ahead of time is in the A10, there's no home court advantage for Duquesne. As a home team since 2021, they've covered 5% of their games, and they've only covered 38% of A10 games in the last 3 years. So this is like a situational play that I like to go ahead and fade the Dukes when I can. I know that they're even more dependent, Dayton is, on homes for big games, but I'm comfortable with that in this matchup. I think he's going to eat. And the fact that I'm now catching points, as I mentioned at the top, I would have gone all the way to laying to the edge of one possession at 3 points.
I will go. I'm going to go to one that everyone is going to hate, but I'm probably going back to the well with Texas A&M against Kentucky. Kill me. This is, I mean, Texas A&M, really veteran team. They were at right with Auburn right up until the end and could not make a shot. They're shooting 17% from three in SEC play. I think that they can control the offensive glass here. They can keep Kentucky, as much as you can out of transition at home here after a couple of losses, desperation spot. I think we're getting Texas A&M at the very bottom of the market. Wade Taylor had one of the worst games of his collegiate career at Auburn. Couldn't make anything. Couldn't make a layup at the end. I think he'll have a big game here. He's usually really good in these spots. So Texas A&M around a pick against Kentucky, kill me. But I think I'm going back to, I guess now, our Aggies. Randall?
Coasted last week with Bradley at home. Insert the Incredible Hulk smash gif. Now they're on the road at Illinois, Chicago. Look, I love Illinois, Chicago. I got a soft spot here for the Flames because they won me a lot of money with a run in their conference tournament years ago. But Luke Yaklich's team just is horrific on offense. They can't make free throws. Bradley started 0-2. Remember, they played a lot of their games here, and they struggled early without Connor Hickman. So they're behind the 8 ball. They lost to Murray State and Indiana State. So there's no margin for error. They look great. They're healthy. Pounded Valpo, pounded Missouri State, pounded Evansville. I think they get the win here at Illinois, Chicago. I get it. Rivalry. Maybe they keep it close. But I think Bradley is just too good right now. Hickman is playing really, really well. I think the line's just too low. I think they cover. We just talked, Mike, about teams covering on the road here in conference, but I think Bradley is really good. I don't think they're going to mess around with the Flames. I think they get the job done here.
Calabrese.
All right, I'm going to go to Saturday. I've been waiting for Colgate to drop a game, and it's pretty rare when they drop a game at home in the Patriot League, but they just had one of those weird shooting nights against Lafayette. Still, despite that, their defense and offensive rebounding kept them in it. They still almost pulled it out. They're traveling to Bucknell. I'd lay up to 3, 4. I'd probably go 4 points in this one because Bucknell is just awful offensively. They play really slow, but that's not a differentiator this year against Colgate. The Raiders are actually 308th in tempo this year, so I don't think that's going to throw them off. But critically, Bucknell is one of the worst rebounding teams in America, certainly at the bottom of the Patriot League. And this is where I think Keegan Records has a big game. He's coming off a double-double in that loss to Lafayette. I think he's going to get the best of Noah Williamson inside in this game, and I think Colgate gets off the mat in the Patriot League and wins comfortably.
Let's go. I'm going to go to the SEC here, and a team that's been pretty surprising off to a 13-2 start in South Carolina. They kind of got some humble pie at Alabama. I think I'm going to fade them again on the road at Missouri. I mean, South Carolina, if you look at their schedule, I mean, look, they played 2 away games. They lost at Clemson, and they got blown out against Alabama. They've won. They beat DePaul by 5, Virginia Tech by 2, East Carolina by 6, Charleston Southern by 4. So they've won a lot of close games that I think are kind of, I've been more impressed with South Carolina compared to my preseason expectations. But I think Missouri can run its offense here. They will control the tempo at home. I think I think this is just a good buy low spot on Missouri against a South Carolina team that's probably, even after the loss at Alabama, at the top of its market. Still not a believer in this team. They still don't have shooting that I trust overall. So I'm going to look to back MIZ at home. Randall?
Last one, you took it from me. That's a great pick. I had it on the list. So I will go to my last one here on Saturday. Guys, I went to Boston College, had a lot of great memories there. Okay, we just hit it right with the sports and the Elite Eight and all that stuff, football, everything great. Okay, fantastic. You're telling me Clemson's going to lose 4 games in a row, and they're going to lose at home to Boston College. Everything goes through Quinton Post. I think Clemson can match up with them. This is a desperation spot for Clemson team. Yes, I know there's regression coming, but they're great on the boards. They shoot well at home. They just lost to Miami, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. They are not going on a 4-game losing streak. I understand on Saturday the line, Ken Pom has it at 9. I would lay double digits. My Eagles, I get it. Sometimes it's a good spot, guys. Notre Dame game, the whole thing. This is not the spot. I think you're going to get an angry Clemson team. They cannot go to 1-4 and lose to the Boston College Eagles. I will lay it. I'm sorry, with my head, not my heart. Clemson at home against Boston College.
What happened with Quinn Post in that last game? Like, he had been killing it the whole year, and just, I mean, talk about bottoming out in one performance. Like, I didn't see the actual game, so I don't know if he was banged up or something, but I was shocked when I saw the box score.
Had a really rough game against Syracuse, who made it a priority to guard him here. I mean, he was at 26 minutes, no points, 0 of 2. And now he's going up against a front line in Clemson with PJ Hall, who I think is going to be able to challenge him a little bit. So he just had a bad game. But you lose by 10 at Syracuse, I get it's a bounce back spot. How can Clemson lose 4 in a row and make the fourth one be Boston College? I can't see it, Mike.
I was also, you mentioned kind of disappearing acts. Clemson, I know he was in a little bit of foul trouble, but PJ Hall against North Carolina, I was a very underwhelming performance. He looked he went 0 of 5 from 3, 2 of 4 from the line. And I think he only played like 22 minutes because of some foul trouble, but he looked a little hesitant and I was very disappointed in his performance against North Carolina. But I don't hate this spot at all. Generally, Hall's a hell of a player. He just had an off night against Carolina. Calabrese, anything else you got?
One last one of my favorite mid-majors, Western Carolina on the road at Mercer. I'd lay it up to 5. The Catamounts are really good. They're 14-2 straight up. They're 8-5 against the spread. They got a go-to scorer. Vontarius Woolbright is incredible.
Fills up a box score.
It's like 10 rebounds per game, 12
21, 12, and 5. He's carrying my college fantasy basketball team this year, so shout out to him. Mercer also, by the way, is going to be able to help Western Carolina's one issue offensively, which is they don't get to the line. No worries there. Mercer fouls more than just about any team in their conference. And the Catamounts have a huge advantage on the glass. A big part of that is Woolbright chipping in with, over 10 boards a game. But overall, they're the 37th best defensive rebounding team by percentage in the entire country. I think that travels. You talk about like football, good defense travels, rebounding travels. And I think that's going to help them get the best here. And finally, Western Carolina has been really good at not turning it over. Just below 11 turnovers per game. That's 55th in the country. So when you take the rebounding advantage on the glass and the fact that they're not sloppy with the basketball, this is not the year to do it, but I'm going to trust a team at the top of their conference to go on the road and cover a number, and I hope the Catamounts do it for me.
You just look at his stat line every night, and I'm like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, he'll have like 10 points in the first half. It's wild numbers he puts up.
I'll bring up a spot. I'm curious to see where this line ends up, but Winthrop against Radford. Winthrop here last year, they lost in the Big South Conference tournament to Radford. They lost twice in the regular season. They've talked about this game at home, triple revenge from last year. They should get to the line a ton. They have turnover issues, but Radford doesn't turn you over. I think this is, Winthrop defends the perimeter really well, which is important against Radford. I think this is a pretty good matchup, a great spot. Hopefully we can get them as a shorter favorite than maybe what I'm expecting, but had Winthrop circled. I had Butler circled against Seton Hall, but maybe the cat is out of the bag. Butler winning. I was hoping Butler lost at Marquette.
That's a good stuck real quick. That's a good point too, because Winthrop played last night. They're done. Radford playing at Longwood tonight. So that's also a huge advantage.
Yep. And then I'll look to see if we get an inflated number with Oklahoma State at Iowa State. I mean, you're going to get double digits here. I'll see if it's inflated after that win against Houston. Iowa State might come out a little flat. It's still an offense that can go through lulls, and it's a team that I wouldn't mind fading as a big double-digit favorite even at Hilton. It's not the same Hilton spot against an Oklahoma State team that's dropped a couple in a row. But that's all I got. Anything else? Anything? You guys out?
Good. Yeah.
All right, good stuff there. We have Texas A&M deep in the heart of Texas so far in the futures portfolio. Texas A&M to make the Final Four 14-1. Houston to win the Big 12 regular season title at plus 200 as we continue to build our futures portfolio, which we'll do each and every Thursday night throughout the rest of the regular season. Thanks to Mike for joining me. Thanks to our producer, David, on the back end. Thanks, of course, to all of you for tuning in. We will be back Monday with myself, Greg Waddell, and Mike Calabrese for the early week preview. Guys from the Three-Man Weave, as always, Wednesday, and then we'll be back later next week. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy, leave a 5-star review, do giveaways in one of these next couple episodes. So leave a 5-star review, really helps us out. Say whatever. And good luck on all of your wagers this weekend. Enjoy the hoops, enjoy the NFL playoffs, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.